This series is going to introduce you to the two most powerful features in Drupal, fields and views. These two pieces are fundamental building blocks when it comes to building Drupal sites. The field module is part of Drupal core, and it allows you to customize entry forms for entities, things like nodes and users, comments. It does this by allowing you to add fields to any of those entry forms. So things like checkboxes or select lists or even a file upload. The views module is a contributive module, which is the perfect counterpart to field, in that instead of putting content into your site through an entry form, views allows you to get that content back out again in the way that you want. Views let you create lists of content. And most sites are honestly made of lists of content. So getting a foundation in these two tools really is going to set your feet on the right road for working with Drupal. So in this lesson, we're going to be looking at building a job posting board for university. So we'll be taking a look at what our case study is and what it is that we need to do for this job posting board. And we'll cover our implementation notes and see how we're going to tackle the problems we have to solve. So let's go ahead and get started with the fundamental building blocks of Drupal sites. In this series, we're going to create this website, the Epic University Job Posting Board. And it should look a lot like this when we are done. And we have the case study that we're working with is we have several students who are on work study at Epic University. And they've been tasked with building this job posting site, and they need to do it pretty quickly, very simply. It needs to be relatively easy to maintain. And because Drupal has a lot of flexibility in terms of creating custom input forms and being able to list that content on the site very easily through the UI, that's what the students have chosen to use. The Human Resources Department has several requirements around this job posting board, though. So our requirements that we have, and we'll take a look at what we've actually done in terms of building this in here. First of all, we need to be able to post jobs on the site. So for faculty, they should be able to come in and create a new job content type. It should indicate which department, and we should be able to have a salary and list a contact person. In addition to just creating the jobs, we want to be able to have a list of the available jobs for the public to see. So we're going to have a list, but the list needs to be broken down by department. And then when we look at the department list, we'll actually get the list of individual jobs. They also want this to be an RSS feed so that people can subscribe to the RSS feed and see when new jobs come out. Once we have our job stuff in place, of course, another requirement would be that people need to be able to apply for the jobs. So we also need to have an application process. And on the application, it needs to be able to be linked to a job in some way so they know which job it's about. And we want to let people actually upload a resume to the site instead of having to type everything in, which would be a little bit silly. Once the applications have been submitted, we have a few requirements about how people should be able to view and access those. We want the faculty to be able to see all of the applications that have been submitted. So we want to have sort of a master list of all the applications that have come in so far on the site. But additionally, what they would really like to have on this is that they can see all the applications for a particular job instead of having to weed through a massive list. So we also want to create a tab on the job page which lists applications that are pertinent only to that particular job. That takes care of all of our faculty stuff, and we also want to make sure only the faculty can view those. And in addition to that, we want our users who have submitted applications to be able to see a list of those applications when they log into the site. So we also need to create a block for a user's applications over here in the sidebar that lists which job and what the title of their application was. So these are our basic requirements that we need to target for this job posting board to get the sign-off from the Human Resources Department. Drupal core provides the site with a lot of good starting pieces. We can do a lot of this stuff with core in terms of creating a new content type and customizing the input form with the core fields that we have available, including the file field, and we also have text fields and number fields. But we're also going to need to use some additional modules to make sure that we can build this site out completely. So here's the complete list of modules we're going to use in this series to build this out. We're going to focus on the core field and field UI and file field in order to create the custom forms that we need to for the input for jobs and applications. We're also going to use the references module, which will let us build relationships between different entities so that we can create that relationship between a job and the application that it's applying for. And then for all of those different lists that we're going to need, we're going to use one module, the views module. And that module is going to let us create all kinds of variety of lists and link our information together using the references module as well. If you would like to follow along with this series, you should install the Using Drupal source code and use the Chapter 3 job posting board installation profile during the installation process. And that'll set you up with some basic users and our basic theme, etc., so that your starting site will look something like what we're going to be working with here, and you'll have a few things in place. If you don't have the source code and that installation profile, you're going to have to download a few modules so that you can install those, and you'll have to create some users so that you can test the various access permissions and such that we're going to be creating on the site. And you'll see that as we move our way through the series. So we have a website to build. Let's get started.